Youth Work Works is a documentary film exploring the history of youth work in the London Borough of Newham. It started as a small project to explore what youth work actually is. Newham has a rich history of youth work taking place through the generations, something that's not always well known.
Why ask me these questions?
Oh, we're doing a film, can't you see?
In making this film, we recorded over 50 hours of interviews and spoke to over 100 young people, youth workers, and even those who've retired. And they shared their stories.
Youth work is, well...
Yeah, this is a $60 million question, isn't it?
It's really...
I don't even know, to be honest. I think it's like, it's kind of self-explanatory is what it says, isn't it? Like, youth work is to work with youth.
I think when I went to university when I was 18, and I went there to a youth work course, I thought, right, they're going to teach me, this is youth work 101, you know, blah, blah, blah. And actually, as the 3 years went by, I realised that no, that was never coming. And you had to develop your own style of youth work. You had to work out what worked for you.
It's teaching young people skills of life, how to create their character, how to give off a persona, how to be confident. Give them the tools to get out there and be the best that they can be.
The importance of youth work is we've got time to listen to young people, to spend time with them, not just to play games, sometimes to play games, because by playing games with them you can build up relationships and actually have a conversation.
I would say it's essentially about relationships between youth workers and the young people they work with.
I think that's the core of youth work. If you can't develop a relationship with a young person, then you're not a youth worker as far as I'm concerned.
I mean, it's fundamentally a family.
So as a youth worker, I always try and go back to when I was 15 or 14 and think, what was I going through and how can I create a space that enables young people to be free or to have a freedom, have a sense of agency and a sense of who they are to direct it for themselves. And that's what youth work means to me, or how I try to practice it.
The power of youth work is often quite subtle, and even in the relationship while it's happening, it may not look like much is happening. And it's the type of phenomena that in reflection you can look back and then be like, wow, especially from the young person's point of view. I've been in a situation where I've had young people come back to me and say that they've remembered certain conversations that for me was just conversation, but it's had an impact on them. And then there's obviously an ability to be a bit more calculated with it and say, I want to strategically introduce young people to doing this, this and this with the means to achieving something.
Coming from the East End, you had to really be able to navigate lots of quite difficult relationships, and actually the hub of Forest Gate was a safe place that lots of people could come to, no matter what your background was, whatever your context or creed or colour, and everyone knew once you were in the centre that was a safe place. And for me that was quite comforting in lots of the disturbance that was going on in and around in the area.
It felt like I had to be a part of this miniature culture that was in Forest Gate Youth Centre. Everyone was cool with everyone. The dancers were doing their thing, the ballers were doing their thing, the guys doing the music were doing their thing, and then you just had the other guys playing pool, table tennis, whatever. Like, it had an energy that was built for productivity, and that to me is what the energy still is with regards to Forest Gate Youth Centre.
For me, in terms of being a young person, so I started with Trinity Centre, and then I went to Ilford Youth Zone, and then we came to Forest Gate, got to know some of the youth workers in here. So for me, all these things was kind of new to me. I'm coming from Middle East, where we didn't have space that young people kind of go in to socialise or learn something new. So for me, when I used to come to do my dance classes on Fridays and Wednesdays, them 2 days used to be my favourite days, because it was the days where I can be anyone I want, and not that Zara had issues or problems or was thinking about all the responsibility down on my neck, you know, cooking, cleaning, looking after 7 kids. It was just me, music, and I'm taking part of a dance and I'm learning. And the youth work, I remember Kat was just on point. He didn't care, I spoke, I understood. All right, focus, boom, 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 done.
Right now we can see a group that's using the dance studio.
She's just looking straight, so you don't need to look
down because you know where the floor is. Yeah.
I do a lot of professional work. And what I love is the fact that I'm able to go off during the day, work with a particular artist, and then in the evening be working with my dancers or my young people. And they say, okay, Ken, what have you done today? Oh, well, I worked with such and such. And then on TV, they're seeing that, but then, you know, in rehearsals, I'm physically there. It shows them that I am just like them, and if I have the capability of doing it, and I'm there right in front of them, then they have the capability of doing it. And that's why, for me, it's important that I stay within the community to help push that, because we need more superheroes. We need more of that.
Hello guys, my name is Victor. With the youth workers, they want to actually help us in our future, you know. They want to benefit our lives. So what they're doing, I love what they're doing because it's actually helping. I'm more mature. They've always been there. They're always encouraging me. They make you learn new skills, and they always want to push you to the limit. And the benefits about that is that because I've got that I can pass it on to other people. People know that I love encouraging other people myself.
I still sometimes, forget myself that I'm actually not a young person in here. I'm actually a manager. Okay, Zara, think, focus.
Because I've done my work experience here, so I learned that there's you have to be two sides, you have to be professional, and you can't, if I see a friend, I can't just talk and be like, hey, what's good? You have to be professional.
Because I can relate myself to them, to this center, and I can share some of my experiences, it's for them, it's like, Miss, if you was a young person and you became a center manager, then anything is possible.
There's a lot of things that I can say is because you get to communicate with other schools and other people. You get to play games and have tournaments and go on fun trips. Oh, they're very nice and encouraging, and if you need anything help, they'll help you and stuff. There's no need to be shy because if you come here, you'll have a great time and enjoy stuff and be a happy person.
What's great is that no one pushing my son to do anything. It's constructed that way, that he wants to come here and he wants to do things and he wants to get involved.
I believe when I first came to the youth centre I was immature and I didn't really understand what the world was about, and the youth centre and the youth workers have helped me progress and made me more mature.
With youth centres, they just play pool with the kids. Well, I don't play pool with the kids, so obviously I can't be a youth worker. No, we do so much more than that.
Luckily, shipment is right here in Custom House, so as members committee, so this is my second home here in this centre.
I look at a lot of them and they're the ones that people are not expecting to amount to anything, and then I just see myself in them because I wasn't meant to be who I am today. We all stumble because you're expected to stumble, you're expected to come off the rail, and that's fine, but it's about how we get back on track, and getting back on track is what my youth worker helped me to do, and so it's about the each one teach one, and it's passing on the knowledge.
Yeah, I enjoy coming to Shipman because there's lots of members to help me, and if I'm upset, someone can come and help.
And also give us the skills we need to get jobs and to become ourselves.
Yeah, it's changed me a bit really, because I'm normally the quiet kid who just when I was younger I was quiet, I didn't want to do anything, just wanted to follow my friends. Now I'm just completely different. I just do my own thing. I have people following me, about asking me questions, doing things I want to do, and I'm just more talkative really. You never would have got me doing this about 3-4 years ago.
People encourage you to do whatever you want in life, and it's very fun.
Even when you're having difficult times, they're always there, like I said, to support you and tell you the issues and the advantage of being a better person.
Hello, how are you?
They do little meetings and they help us with our CVs and that sometimes. So they say do this and then it'll be good on your CVs when you go to college.
To have a nice time and not to hang around outside so I don't get in trouble on that.
Yeah, I've learned how to at least make new friends and communicate with other people and have fun.
My greatest success is
working with a couple young people who were rebelling against the school system because they felt caged in, didn't understand, didn't feel the teacher had enough time for them, and seeing them come and get themselves a good job, go through training, go through college, and also help develop themselves while at youth centre and doing activities. And I think that's where youth workers come in. We're there to offer them support, to show them the direction, show them the different prospects, and teach them out of the class.
What made youth work different from schools was that the curriculum was not an imposed curriculum. I always thought that the curriculum ought to be something that the young people had access to, but I did think there had to be a curriculum.
Yes.
You did have to have things on offer. You couldn't just turn to
a programme.
You couldn't turn to a young person who'd never had any options in life and say, "What do you want to do?" Because they didn't know.
No.
Yeah, they hadn't been very far. They hadn't perhaps been beyond the end of their road. So you had to say, "Look, there's this, this, and this." Not just say, "What do you want to do?"
We're going for our guidelines, and so far, thank you, Dexter, for the first one, which is to interact. Let's all get involved. What other things do you think we should all do together?
My belief is education is about enabling the youngster to themselves come to their understanding about who they are, what they are, and where they're going, and for them to be supported in achieving their full potential, personally, socially, education, in a way that is not compulsory. It's how they want to do it.
Youth work started in the 1840s in response to an emerging youth culture, often led by local people. Soon after, organisations formed with the sole purpose of providing services to young people. One of these organisations, the YMCA, has a college based in the borough where you can still study youth work today. During the 1940s, some research was conducted for the county borough of East Ham. Its findings were very similar with what happens today, showing that the essence of youth work was present then and still happens now. By the 1960s, fully paid, full-time youth workers made an appearance across the whole of Britain, but the growth didn't stop there. Newham acquired Fair Play and Debden House, where young people from the borough have enjoyed, explored and discovered life outside Newham.
My name is Dudley Cortman. I was principal of the Outdoor Education Centre for 30 years, and the centre in actual fact had its roots at Heybridge Basin on a floating headquarters. It was a sailing barge. It was absolutely wonderful. The children used to come and sleep on the barge and look after themselves, and I used to organise activities during the day. And it became so popular that we started looking around for new premises, and it was fortunate that East Ham used to own, well, they owned the Fair Play House and they used it as an old people's home. A deal was done and it was taken over by the Education Department of West Ham, and we turned it into an outdoor centre. I started it. It was not easy to begin with because I was a pretty young man and I had a staff of about 25 people who used to be carers, and now they have to look after the youngsters. But we managed, and gradually we increased it. It became so popular. So any one day we had 60 youngsters from Newham out in the countryside, which I'm sure you will agree was an absolutely fantastic thing to do.
Truly, as a worker, I don't know how many times I've been there. I think it's one of the greatest assets we have in the youth service, and the fact that most young people in terms of the primary school age in the borough get to go. So when you mention it, it's kind of a bit like a legendary place. It's like, wow, you get to go to Fair Play, and people remember the peacock and all sorts of strange things about it. Have they still got, whatever?
Yeah, it was my first time visiting the countryside. Before that, I grew up in Plaistow, East London, and I just saw tower blocks and council flats, maybe a few trees over Greengate Park or something like that. But suddenly we were out in this beautiful house in the countryside, outdoor swimming pool, we went canoeing, we were like looking at insects and worms and pond life and just all these beautiful things that you just never had an opportunity to see when you were in East London, and it was just amazing. And you also had a laugh.
One night somebody would have to clean up and everything. At the time I didn't like it because
I didn't want to do the dishes or clean the tables or anything like that. But looking back on it, it's actually helped me because when I came home, I was more helping my mum out. Everything that we done there helped us for the better, whether we knew it or not, which was good.
There's massive amount of history here. You know, you can't get better than a young person saying, my mum and my gran.
That's a nice thought, that. It's a very nice thought.
Imagine.
The fact that, you can't let them down.
No, because I can think about me as myself and my current status. My current status is irrelevant because I've had people like yourself and people before you making sure that this place existed. I even need to think about what Lord Crittall done. I mean, if he didn't make this, could have been a private dwelling. It was, and he made it available. So he had foresight. And he thought about the future, and it's the reason why we're here today, 54 years on, having 500,000 young people or whatever using this place. You know, in 50 years' time, I hope that will I be around? Probably not. But I hope that this place is still around and they're still talking about what happened 100 years ago. It'd be amazing if that was the case. But for now, I'm taking it 1 year at a time.
I've had lots of involvement with Debden House, Debden Campsite in particular. I always see it as a jewel in the crown of this borough, really.
The thing is, it's the kind of place, if we ever got rid of, we'd never own again. It's an absolute, it has magical memories for lots of different people, old and young. We have lots of Newham youth groups in, we have non-Newham groups in as well, using the campsite, using the house. I think the pressure's more, obviously, nowadays, we run ourselves as a business, so everything we spend, we have to earn. So the pressure is there, but we're doing it.
I think we bought these facilities in a slightly more enlightened age, actually. I think we brought them in an age when politicians and others really had a view that they could move their communities forward, and that accessing people to these type of resources will be very valuable for the community. And I still think it's true.
The political landscape has changed. Politicians place a high or low level value on the work with young people.
I think one of the things that we did is getting the money, we've been given the money to build Forest Gate and Little Ilford Youth Centre, because many of the youth centres that we actually had in the statutory service were pretty run down, but in fact Little Ilford and Forest Gate were the sort of pinnacle, as it were. They were the new youth centres.
I mean, they were flagships, weren't they? It was just fantastic that those facilities were available to young people. There'd been nothing like it before.
The year Forest Gate opened, I did some looking around, and I'm pretty sure it was the most expensive youth centre in the country, if not Europe. Gym, basketball court. It had been built deliberately high enough so you could use a trampoline in there. Music workshop, we did dance workshops, had a computer workshop. We're talking BBC Acorns and things like that.
I would describe what happened in youth service as being a very rapid climb up to the early 80s and then a very long and slow decline. There's a requirement in the 44 Education Act to provide out of school services for young people, but it doesn't specifically say what they are and how they should be run. So the consequence is it's an easy cut for local authorities.
An awful lot of people who are in a position of power, in a position of influence in terms of funding, really do not understand what a youth service in an area actually does and how it makes a difference.
Does youth work actually make a difference? We tried to calculate the number of young people that had been part of youth work in Newham. Something that wasn't easy.
Just the number of young people that I've worked with.
Oh my good lord.
Who knows how many young people got?
Oh, I couldn't count. Could you imagine? I couldn't count. I've worked in all different youth centres, different youth clubs.
At Mayflower, as I said, we had over 200 young people a night.
From groups out on streets.
We get about like maybe 90 kids.
Hundreds.
500, maybe up to
1,000.
1,500, 2,000? Easy.
It must be in the thousands over the years.
It's well over 250,000, 300,000
I
probably.
always say that's not bad.
Yeah, it's a lot of people.
Probably could have filled Wembley Stadium a couple of times with the youngsters we worked with over the years.
It's a big responsibility, isn't it?
If I sat with a pen and paper, I could probably give a guesstimate, but I don't think in those terms because I just think of every young person as an individual. I don't see them as a big number. I just keep going.
I think the difficulty we have is that we place young people into a bucket and say, let's deal with the youth. Well, that's not going to work because they're not a homogenous group. So we have to really take the time to find out what works for you as an individual. And the services that I saw through the likes of a youth centre in Forest Gate and the other initiatives that I worked when I was growing up was that they had the time to find out who you were. So you knew there were caseworkers in there or youth workers who would know your name. They'd know the school you went to. They'd know the friends that you hung out with. They'd know the things that were going to upset you or make you really happy. And that intelligence is so important about getting the trust of an individual to expose who they really are. And once you know who they really are, you can then start to help them. And that's what we took in terms of what we do at Bright Ideas Trust. We work with individuals. We don't work with the youth because that doesn't exist. Who are the youth? I've yet to meet them. But I know if I meet John, Jennifer, Patrick, Stephen, I can work with them and I can find out what they need.
Whilst being a member at the youth centre, we've been on loads of residentials around the country. We've been on a youth exchange last summer.
We did a production called Do the Right Thing.
Moonwalk, like for breast cancer.
Raising money for children in need.
All kind of activities.
Play music or learning how to record.
We built this desk.
Dance, football.
Usually I do some basketball coaching with some of the young people in the sports hall.
Go-karting.
I've done a lot of events with them.
Recently we done a Young Carers event. It was a fun day where we had a load of inflatables like the Total Wipeout.
When we had the winter concert.
I've been involved in launching City Safe.
Applied for funding and got lots of filming equipment, including the camera you're filming on right now.
Oh, we went to Amsterdam and we studied their sex education system thanks to the EU. That was a wonderful week away. I learnt so much.
I did DMV Silver.
There's this school out in Jamaica. This time next year, really, we was thinking of doing a youth exchange.
We went to Florence and we spoke at the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child. So we were actually able to influence an international document, and I'm still yet to top that.
One of the things that's really key to young people learning about themselves is taking them out of their comfort zones, coming out of London and going somewhere and experiencing totally things that they've never experienced before, and even more so when you can get to go abroad. I'm only saddened that, you know, those opportunities are less and less today.
I've just taken part in the School of Staff programme, which is to get you ready to become group leaders in the future.
We are the British Tourists and we are going to play a game called British Water.
And it's just come to the end and I've really enjoyed my time here. I've learned how to become a leader, control a group and learn off other people.
New experiences, met a lot of new people, excellent people.
I've learned qualities that will enable me to become a great leader.
Mostly how to be a young adult and to look after small young children and safety precautions and build team building.
Everyone from Latvia, go in the middle!
To build my confidence, to find out who I am.
So I'd like to say that it's been an amazing experience to bring all the 4 countries together, Greece, Italy, Latvia and Britain or UK. It's been an amazing experience to learn different type of skills of leadership, and none of this would have been possible without Olga.
The beginning of this journey was a youth exchange in Greece called Creativity, and it was the starting point for us also when we were young, and we start creating a network around Europe, and we explore ourselves what we want, how we want our Europe, and then more young people, they have the chance to go abroad, to meet young people, to talk about the same issues that they have, to exchange ideas and views.
I'd like to say a big thank you to Lynn. You know, I travelled around Europe with Lynn and 17 other young women, which was an absolute fantastic achievement and something that does stay with me to this day.
I don't know what possessed me to take 17 young women aged 12 to 15 round 9 countries in Europe with a backpack and nowhere to go. We just turned up. The pinnacle of it was to visit Disneyland at the end. And before we went to Disneyland, we was in Portugal, and this village had no electricity. People didn't have washing machines. We took everywhere on the back of a tractor. And I thought, they're gonna kill me that I've brought them to this place where there's nothing. And we were there about 2 or 3 days, and the villagers were so accommodating, so friendly. They took us to festas. The girls ended up on local radio. And we was about to go to Disneyland and said, we don't want to go. We don't want to go. I said, what? They loved the fact that they had nothing there, but they had everything. They had nothing, but they had everything. And they was not one bit bothered about going on to Disneyland the first year it opened. They wanted to stay in that village and experience the warmth and hospitality of the people there. So it was that was really the pinnacle of the trip for me.
To be honest, I did really look up to Lynn because she is a lovely youth worker. I thought I'd give it a go. I've had that experience from somebody like, you know, giving me the opportunity to go and do lots of different things and courses and stuff and that, and I thought I'll give it a go.
I think if it wasn't for like the youth workers that I had, Lynn, Tina, I would have probably still be working in a chip shop. I'm not knocking people that would, but I wouldn't have had an education, I wouldn't have studied. I don't know where I would be now if they hadn't of looked and seen something in me that actually made a difference, and I like to make that difference in other people's life.
You can't just have youth work in isolation. You can't just have a centre and not be aware of what's around you. You have to have the buy-in of the community, you have the buy-in of the politics, you have to have the buy-in of the families, of everything. And so we've got our supporters, and without people supporting us to carry on delivering youth work, we couldn't do it.
The biggest challenge at the moment is about funding.
Everything is going to get sort of costed to the nth degree, and these are the sort of places that could suffer.
That is the key problem for youth work, is how they're going to be resourced in 10 years' time. Because there's a real danger that it might disappear altogether.
That to me is actually quite worrying, to know that if and when I have children, they might not have the same resources or the same access to services that I was able to benefit from. They might not have the community, that sense of community. And I think that's actually what is key.
I mean, without youth clubs, for me, I think there would have been a massive hole in my teenage years. A massive, massive hole. You know, so many opportunities that I wouldn't have realised were available for me.
The fact that the youth service has never been a statutory service has always been a challenge, and I think that's been a testimony to you guys to have kept a youth service going this long, that it hasn't been cut completely.
I think youth clubs are like the younger version of a pub. They keep people together, they're a central meeting place, they're where things happen naturally. I think it's going to have a massive impact on all the other services. Youth work almost operates as like a prevention tool. So I think that's going to come back maybe full circle and see the benefits of youth work again and reinvest into it. My fingers crossed.
It's never going to be easy, because I think the key to youth work is almost its ambiguity, that it can't be a targeted service entirely, because then it ceases to be a voluntary one. You're saying, oh, you fit the criteria, you can come in, yeah? And as soon as we start saying that to young people, I think it's stopped being youth work, it's become some kind of referral system. I think we need to find a service that perhaps fills a lot of gaps, you know, and also works with young people who just need a bit of affection, a bit of a place to go, someone to talk to, or a place where they can talk to each other. You know,
Exactly.
maybe they don't want to. You know, if they don't want to talk to us, we
That's
should
fine.
still be providing somewhere for them. I think. You know, nothing worse than a bloody youth worker who wants to sit down with you when you want to talk to your mate. You know, I mean, go away.
Well, we've always boasted that we're great communicators in youth work. We're supposed to be the communication specialists. We need to talk to people in the language that they understand. And we say we can do this, but we don't seem to be able to do it with funders and investors. We've got to justify our practice, and we've got to find a language to do that, and that's our challenge.
Newham has its fair share of challenges and has always shown its strong community spirit, with people finding a way through. But why is that? Is Newham unique?
What makes Newham unique?
Boy, unique. Oh, I definitely think it's unique.
Never a dull day in Newham.
Newham is a really magical place.
Well, it's diversity. That's got to be one of its great riches.
More than anything, it's diversity.
Diversity that we have.
It's diversity.
The fact that you've got so many different cultures in one street, and you'll find that majority of people get on.
Next door to me on the right, I had an Indian neighbour. On the left, I had a Jewish neighbour. Opposite, I had a black neighbour. And it's just like, you know, that's what you see everywhere. And
I'm probably more racially dense than any other community I've had experience of working across the whole of London.
But in Newham, there is not one dominant group. And I think that makes for a healthier community because it isn't dominated.
I like that so much creative and sporting talent has come from Newham on a national scale.
I think one of the biggest reasons why the Olympics and Paralympics was a success in 2012 was because it was in Newham, you know, and because in Newham there's a place and a home for everyone from all over the world.
They've definitely got more youth centres here, and there's a lot more going on here.
When you go out of Newham, you start going, are you doing this just for the money? Or are you doing it because you care about what you do? And I know that in Newham, we turned out a high level of young individuals, be it dancers, actors, musicians, footballers, basketball players, artists. We turned out a high level, so we can feel good. I can, you know, to die tomorrow and rest in peace knowing that what we did as youth workers, we did well.
When I was 13, we moved to Redbridge. So I was only 10 minutes down the road from where I'd grown up, but it was a completely different environment. There was one youth centre. You didn't necessarily get the feel that the youth workers were there for you. You got the sense that they were there to be paid, and they were happy to shut up and kick you out at the time that youth centre was closed. Newham was never ever like that, and that's why I kept on coming back. So I would happily go in the opposite direction rather than go to the Redbridge Youth Centre, go in the opposite direction or walk over the flats and go to Forest Gate, to be a part of what I'd understood Newham's youth service to be, which was a positive vibe, a warmth, care, and I think I'm even underplaying this. It was a genuine warmth and care. You actually felt that people had your best interests at heart, and that was priceless.
Oh no, this thing.
You got to sit in my chair. Okay, so look, this is going to be in years to come. So you're going to be the centre manager. Look, take a lanyard.
Sorry for this broken foot.
That's okay. Look, there you are.
These passers by were like, what's happening, what's happening? I felt like a cop. I had to sort of hold my hand up and say, it's okay, I'm a youth worker.
And you need the sunglasses. Hang on, you need the key. This is, and I've got 3 phones at the minute. You can be careful with that one.
I'm very grateful for youth work, which is probably, and I hold it dear to my heart, which is probably why I want to do it forever.
Hello, my name is David Bigglestone and welcome to the Beckton Youth Centre. How can I help you?
Do I really sound like that?
Yes.
So why do you want to be a youth worker, Jack?
Because it's fun.
Does it look like fun? Really? What about all the paperwork you seem to have to do?
Who cares about the paperwork when you can be a kid? You're a big kid, David.
I'm a big kid.
You're a big kid.
I think we're passing on a commitment to young people, believing in young people and wanting the best for young people.
Thank you for watching.